Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm excited to bring you the 12th episode of Mixed Media, The Paper Wishes Way. Today, we're going to combine stamping with opal polish from Creative Expressions. This is a fun technique and gives us a whole new way to use our stamps. Now, I have two projects to share with you, and these cards will use papers from the Wood and Texture Paper Pack. I'm also going to use two chipboard collections from scrapbooking. They are a Polish company that has gorgeous, delicate designs that will coordinate beautifully with the rustic look of our pattern paper. As for stamping, I have two stamp sets from Hot Off the Press. I've got a chicken wire design and also one with sheet music. Now, I'm going to be stamping these with opal polish from Creative Expressions. So we have stamps, chipboard, opal polish, and fabulous pattern papers, a great mix of media to play with today. As you can see, we have a lot to explore, and I'm really glad you're joining us, so come play with us. Let's begin by stamping our design with opal polish. Now, some of you may have seen our previous webisodes on opal polish techniques, but we might have some folks who are new to this medium, so I'll just do a quick recap before we get into our main demo. And then I'll show you how to stamp this beautiful sheet music piece onto black cardstock, which you can see I've put behind the skirt of my mannequin here. Okay, I'm going to move the card aside and open up this jar of blushed peach opal polish. So opal polish is a water-based, fast-drying medium. It's got mica in it, which gives it that beautiful iridescent look. Now, I'm going to be stamping on black cardstock for this demo so that you can really see the design of our beautiful stamp. Now, do bear in mind you can use any color of opal polish and any cardstock color. You will get a very different look when you apply the opal polish to black cardstock versus white cardstock, which just gives you such a huge range of options. Now, the opal polish comes in a jar with a built-in applicator, and the applicator is the best thing for applying the medium to your stamps, and you'll see that in a second. When you first get your opal polish, you will need to remove this little plastic tab on the side, and then you can just pull that built-in sponge right out. Now, the folks at Creative Expressions recommend the first time you get your opal polish that you prime your sponge by washing it in some warm soapy water and then just squeezing out the excess water before you get started. Okay, so let's get to stamping. I'm going to bring in my Misty for this. And the Misty is probably right up there for me with my paper trimmer in terms of must-have tools. And this is just going to really help me with this technique. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. Got a piece of black cardstock that I'll just pop down here. As you know, just secure that with your magnets. And then all I need to do is take my stamp. I'm going to peel it off of this liner sheet and then position it down right onto my cardstock. So I've got the image side down, I've got the smooth side up. And then just make sure that my cardstock is held in place. All I have to do is close my Misty and just smooth that down, and it will adhere onto the front plate of my Misty. So I'm ready to go. And now I can add my opal polish. Okay, so I'm just going to take off the lid here and then simply apply the opal polish to the sponge. I'm taking care not to overload the sponge applicator, and so when I do that, I'm just going to scrape off any excess on the rim of the jar here. And then I just need to apply this onto my stamp. Now, you can apply it pretty lightly at first. You don't want to squash any of that medium into the stamp to create any blobs on there. You can always, thanks to the Misty, go back and re-stamp if you have any bald patches, which can sometimes happen when you're using a different kind of medium other than stamping ink. Okay, so I've got my opal polish on here. The next thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of water, and I'm just going to mist this a couple of times, 2 light mists. That's just to keep that medium nice and fresh. And then just close this up and press. Okay, so I'm pressing pretty firmly. I want to make sure to transfer all of that gorgeous opal polish. And there we go. Now I can see that I've got maybe a couple bald spots in there. So what I can do is just come right back, add a little bit more opal polish to those various areas. I can mist again, maybe just one time, because there's still some water on there. And then just close this up and press again. So there we go. Now you can see the shine and the pattern on here. It is so beautiful and so very easy. Now I just need to let this dry. It won't take very long at all, and I'll be ready to use it on my project. Now to clean my stamp, I could just rinse this off with water. I just run it under the sink, maybe a little bit of liquid dishwashing soap to clean that off, and you're ready to go. Now our friends at Creative Expressions also do recommend that you spritz a bit of water onto the sponge as well as right into the medium in the jar before you close everything up for the day. And that just helps to keep everything fresh on there too. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way, and then let's take another look at this card that I've done. So you can see here I've used the Blush Peach music note piece underneath this intricate chipboard element. Now the chipboard has also been colored with opal polish, and I just glued the dress form right on top and trimmed around the edges with scissors. And before I did that, I really made sure to color this with the opal polish that matches the opal polish in the background piece here too. It's another really simple way to put that opal polish to use. So let's take a look. I'm decorating the big mannequin chipboard piece from Scrapbooking, and this design actually comes in 2 different sizes. So I've got the larger one that measures about 5 1/4 inches tall. And I'm going to use a couple of different colors of opal polish to color this. So to do this, I'm going to keep all of the pieces on the sheet and work right onto my craft mat. And this way I won't accidentally bend any of these little delicate elements here. So I recommend you keep everything kind of in the sheet that it comes on. Now I'm going to be using several colors. So I've got green lemons, I have pink thistle, I have a lavender blue, and also that blushed peach, which we use to do the stamping on. So what I'm going to do is just open up all of the jars and put the sponges next to them so that I've got everything ready to hand. Okay, so let's get out these absolutely gorgeous colors. They're fun on their own, but they're even more fun when you get to use them in combination with each other. Okay, I've got all the tops off, and I'm just going to gently add color to the chipboard. So I'm going to start with the green. Again, just scrape off any of the excess on here, and then gently add this on. Now I'm going to start with the lightest color going onto my green areas, the foliage areas. And just kind of gently tap this on here like so. And then maybe I'll start, let's see, I'll get in with a little bit of this beautiful blue and just gently blend this on. I'm not going with any sort of rhyme or reason here. Just letting those colors work together and blend. So you can see right here already I'm getting some beautiful greens that are coming in. The combination of that light green and the blue. And let's see, we have a little bit of purple in here as well. And I'm just using a very gentle blending effect. Let those colors overlap. You can add more layers, lighter layers, whatever you like. Okay. So I've got most of those colors. Now I'm going to come back with the blushed peach and just do some blending here and a couple of little highlights as well. You don't really have to worry about one color contaminating the sponge of another color, because even if they do get a little bit contaminated or a little bit dirty, you can easily wash off those sponges. So you can afford to get a little bit messy if you want to. Okay, let's see. Maybe I'll add a little bit more up here on these wings. Okay, then I'm going to move aside my various jars. And once this is dry, all I need to do is pop these elements out. Now, I did find that they came out really quite easily, but I did use scissors just to clip around some of these areas here. And that just made it a little bit easier to remove all of those elements from the backing sheet. Because they are so delicate, you do want to be a little bit more cautious with that. And then all you need to do is just layer this element of the mannequin onto your beautiful stamped background. And again, I just used some scissors to trim around the outside edge. Let's take another look at this here. And you can see that I've got this snipped around here. I've got this layered up on top. The entire piece is adhered to the front of the card with foam tape. And I've got that extra branch here kind of peeking out from behind the mannequin. And I love putting this on that beautiful rustic pattern paper because I love the contrast between the paper and this very feminine mannequin design. Scrap and Ink has a real steampunk vibe to their design, so it's fun to play that up with lots of contrast by adding like a metallic ribbon or gemstones, for example. Now the sentiment is a dazzle sticker placed onto an oval die cut. For the inside, you can see a bigger piece of the stamped cardstock. And I've also layered this onto pattern paper. And again, I've got an oval die cut with another dazzle sentiment. I've also got a little piece of that gold ribbon just tucked behind here too. Okay, so this is basic stamping and coloring with opal polish. Let's take a look at a twist on the technique. This card includes more stamping with opal polish using a technique I call overstamping. You can see on the chicken wire design behind this really beautiful heart die cut that it's got some variation in color. Now that's because I stamped first with opal polish, then overstamped some areas with brown ink. So let's take a look at this. Okay, I'm going to move some things aside here. And for this, I definitely need my MISTI because I'm going to be stamping twice and I want to make sure that everything stays in place. So I've got my white cardstock on one side and I've got my chicken wire stamp on the other side. So what I'm going to do is ink this up with a little bit of lavender blue as we did before and stamp. So once again, I'm going to open up the jar and just dab a little bit of this beautiful color onto the sponge. Make sure and scrape off any excess. And then just gently tap this color on here. You know what I'm going to do actually is pull a piece of white cardstock. And I'm just going to slip this underneath here. I think you might be able to see that. Oh, maybe just a little bit better. Okay, so I'm getting all of my area covered. If I get any small bits in there, you just pull those out before you close up your MISTI. Okay, so I've got my opal polish on there. Again, just a quick mist of water. Of course, the more water you use, the less defined your pattern will be, and the more diluted your color will be too. But you can really experiment with that and have a lot of fun creating some very different looks. Okay, close that up. And there I can see I have another little bald spot on here. So I'm going to come back with a bit more of my opal polish. And once again, just tap some more color on here. Mist. Let's do another one. And then close this up. So the MISTI is one of my favorite tools because it is so forgiving. I don't know how I've gone stamping for over 25 years and really only had this for the last couple of years. It's made a big difference. Okay, so now we've got our design stamped on here. So what I'm going to do is leave this in place. I'm going to leave my stamp in place, but I'm just going to kind of clean off some areas here. I'm not going to be too vigorous about it, but just get off any excess on here. And then I'm going to add some ink. And I'm using the Pebble ink pad from Spectrum Noir. And I'm going to ink up my stamp, but I'm not going to ink it up entirely. So I'm just kind of randomly tapping on here to get some of the areas stamped. Okay, and then close this up again and press. No misting required. And there you can see that I'm able to get not only that beautiful lavender blue, but also some darker areas here as well. It gives a really beautiful kind of weathered effect that I think just goes so beautifully with the overall pattern papers and the look and the design of the card. So let me leave this here. I'm going to get my Misty out of the way, and we can take another look at the card example here. So this is where that chicken wire design has gone, and it's gone just right behind our beautiful steampunk chipboard heart. So the chipboard heart is the steampunk square frame design. And I'm going to color this with the lavender blue opal polish as well as some ink. So let me show you this process. Move aside my card, move aside my stamped piece, and again, just working right onto my craft sheet. This is what's protecting my table underneath. And again, I'll get out my lavender blue, and I'm just going to apply some of this color right onto the heart and onto some of these gears. And I'm not doing the entire area, just kind of dabbing some of this on here. It's going to dry quite quickly. And in the meantime, what I can do is bring in another color of opal polish. And this is the Golden Glow. And you can see when I open this that it's one of my favorites. So much so that I really don't have a whole lot left in there, but just enough to pick up on my sponge and do, again, some blending on here. Just a little bit in some areas. Remember, I can always come back and do more. Now what I'm going to do is bring in my Pebble ink pad and dab some more color on here this way. And as with the opal polish, I'm not being too careful. I'm not being too precise about it. I'm just tapping this on here. Okay. Then what I can do is come back again with a little bit more of that blue and do some blending. So that is going to soften that pebble and turn it into a purple color. So remember at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that the opal polish colors will react differently depending on whether you put them onto black cardstock or white cardstock, or that would also go for, say, navy blue or craft colored cardstock. But that also means that it will interact differently with different ink colors too. So this is giving us kind of a rusty effect. Okay, so then I'm going to come back with a little bit more of my precious Golden Glow. It's one of those colors that you just use over and over again. And add some more in here too. This is just going to soften some of those areas that have a bit more color on them, or maybe a bit harsher lines, just to smooth things out. I'm not too worried about the frame because I know that I'm going to cut this heart out of the frame. Okay, now once again, I just need to let this beautiful steampunk heart dry, and then I'll be ready to remove it from this backing piece and apply it onto my card. So let me bring back in my card again. We can take another look at this. So you can see that I've clipped this out of the frame and then put some of the other elements elsewhere onto the card. So for this card, you'll notice that there's a bit more than half of the heart shape on here. I didn't do exactly half because I thought it might be a little bit harder to figure out the shape if you didn't already know. But I really like the idea of using just a portion of one large element like this. And I think it has a really nice striking focal to it. You can still tell that it's a heart, but it does allow lots of other elements on the card. Now the heart frame is originally 5.25 inches square, so it's a pretty substantial one. So you can see here I've got more of those elements that I've just trimmed out. I've got a dazzle sentiment on here, a little bit of purple ribbon, and then also some flat back pearls. For the inside, I added some more pieces of the stamped chicken wire, just cut into strips and glued down. Now the spattering is also opal polish. You can see across here, and if you can touch it, you would be able to feel that as well. This is a really easy process to do, and what I'm going to do just quickly, grab another piece of cardstock, and let's see, I'll also get my beautiful blue color here too. And I'll take my Distress Splatter Brush. And you guys have seen how much I like to use this. It's just such a great tool for lots of different mediums. I'm just going to dip it straight into the jar and then pull those back to spatter on here. And again, as much or as little as you want, and you have a really cool accent, either for the front of your card or, of course, for the inside. And that's what I've done in here, as you can see. And again, another Dazzle sentiment at the bottom and another little piece of that chipboard from our original heart design. So with this, I think we can see just how easy it is to combine opal polish and stamps, or stamping and a little bit more. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for being a part of the Paper Wishes family. We're so glad that you're here with us. I can't wait to see what you create, so do be sure to let us know and leave a comment down below, because we love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com.